YouTube, and welcome to the Day of the Doctor action figure review. As you can see, this review is dedicated entirely to the new series Doctors and also their longtime foe, the Daleks. Now, this review will follow the same pattern as my Light at the End review. It's a special for the 50th anniversary, and we'll focus mainly on each Doctor in order, and then we will have a look at the Daleks in part 2 and conclude with the TARDIS. One little word of warning: this review may have minor spoilers pertaining to the Day of the Doctor, but they will only be referenced from the trailers that have been released in the past couple of days, so if you haven't seen the trailers, don't watch this review or skip ahead. And for those of you who have, there'll be a little bit of speculation depending on which figure we're looking at. So let's start this review as we mean to go on, and we will begin with the first of the new series Doctors from 2005, and that is the 9th Doctor, as played by Christopher Eccleston.
I will talk to the Doctor.
Oh, will you? That's nice. Hello.
The 9th Doctor, 2005. The 9th Doctor was plain-spoken and didn't suffer fools gladly. In spite of this, he still had an irrepressible curiosity and unmistakable alien outlook, which allowed him to charm and beguile friends and foes alike. After a fantastic series of adventures, the Doctor saved his companion Rose Tyler by absorbing the time vortex from her, causing him to regenerate. So, this is the 9th Doctor as portrayed by Christopher Eccleston from the very first of the new series of Doctor Who. It's kind of tricky to talk about this one, as you can see, the costume is actually the least vibrant and interesting of all the Doctors. It was a very plain costume that Christopher Eccleston wore, so it's kind of difficult to review this figure. But as a Doctor, Christopher Eccleston I thought was a very, very good Doctor, a good man to bring the series back, and we do owe him quite a debt, as if he hadn't have helped establish the series early on, we may not have got David Tennant or even Matt Smith had the show not turned out to be a success. So the articulation for Christopher Eccleston is basically the same as on classic Doctors, but there are a few differences. The head can turn almost 360, but because of the back of his leather jacket, it stops at a point. The arms can do a 360, and you've got 360 degree at the bicep, and the arms can bend. The wrists can turn, they're a bit stiff, but they do turn. His legs go up and down and can bend, but there is no thigh or ankle articulation, and the torso very easily can do a 360. And that's it for the articulation, and the articulation is basically the same for all of these new series Doctors. I'll have a look at his accessory next, which is the first new series sonic screwdriver. That's just a piece of rubbery plastic sculpted with the black end there, the silver, the handle in a dull kind of weird turquoisey grey colour, and then more silver, and it's got the little ridges and lines as well, and the blue diode at the end. It's a nice little sculpt. It's very simple. There's no like gaps in the plastic, but that's because it's so small it'd be far too fiddly to do. That screwdriver is okay. I'm not too keen on that screwdriver compared to classics, but never mind. But it's the sculpt of this figure which I quite like. Now, if I just do this, as you can see, the face sculpt looks spot on for Eccleston. It's instantly recognisable as Eccleston. It's very, very nice. You've got the thin eyebrows, but that are painted in a strong black paint. He's got all the wrinkles of his forehead here. He's even put his spot on there on his cheek. The nose is sculpted quite well as well, very close to the actor. His fairly large ears, as he comments on in Rose, and the hair is sculpted very, very nicely. You've got all the different detail. It's just his buzz cut hair, and that's just painted entirely in black. There's no like washes or anything over it. It's like just black. Mine's unfortunately lost some of the paint but that's because that's how it came in the box set. But it's the jacket for me which is the most interesting feature. Now this leather jacket is just a plain dark leather jacket. He has the least interesting costume of any Doctor, but it's so nicely done. You've got the buttons sculpted on really nicely, the buttonholes. You've got the collar, the cut of the collar exactly to how it was, which is very, very nice. You've got all these creases on it as well. His pockets are sculpted on. And the good thing about this jacket is it's actually made of rubber, so it is more malleable than most Doctors' coats, which is very good. You've got the buckle detailing on the back, which is really, really nice. Goes across as a strap. It's like two different pieces. And then you've got the line of the jacket here, which is also very, very good. What I like is how they've gotten all these thicker creases, like they've gotten some, like a little pin in scratched into the plastic a little bit to give it that battered leathery effect. And then what they've done is they've painted it in a black paint, and then they've given it like bits of dirty brown washes over it to give it that leather effect. And it's all really, really nice. And of course on his cuffs of his jacket you have the straps as they were in the series. Here, if we just open the jacket, I've just dropped his sonic screwdriver. If we open the jacket, you can see he's wearing the red jumper as he wore. Now that's just part of the actual sculpt of the figure, I believe, and that's his burgundy jumper that he wore most of the time. But he did have different colours, but the burgundy one just gets re-released constantly. I mean, they've only released the green one once, and the black only recently made an appearance in the Dr. Dalek 2-pack. I don't think we'll ever see the dark blue one again, as Eccleston may never get another figure. But who knows. And the trousers and shoes are just plain black. The trousers are in the matte black, and the shoes are in a gloss black with the shoelaces sculpted on his boots. Some creases on the trousers, but other than that, not really much detail to talk about. So that's the Ninth Doctor. Not as it's a bit underwhelming compared to other figures. But compared to the first release of Christopher Eccleston, which was I think people like to call it the Disco Dance Eccleston, which was like that sort of, it's much better to have a standard Ninth Doctor, and I was actually very glad to get my hands on Eccleston because I never got an early Eccleston. So I'm very, very glad to see this figure. So that's the Ninth Doctor. The next Doctor that we have to talk about, and make the most of it because this is the only time I will talk about this Doctor, and that is the 10th Doctor, as played by David Tennant.
Doesn't kill, doesn't wound, doesn't maim, but I'll tell you what it does do. It is very good at opening doors.
The 10th Doctor, 2005 to 2009. The 10th Doctor had a bright, sparky personality, yet he rarely gave second chances to his foes. Following a cataclysmic encounter with his own people, he gave his own life to save that of Wilfred Mott, absorbing radiation that would have proven fatal to his old friend. He was able to stave off the regeneration process long enough to bid farewell to his past companions and reach the safety of the TARDIS, where the Doctor began to regenerate, alone. End of Time Part 2. The longest regeneration ever, which could have been a lot shorter. Now, like I said earlier, this will be the only time I review David Tennant figures, probably the only time I'll do most new series figures. Now, that's not because I have a vendetta against the new series. I quite like the new series. I'll say I love the new series. I really do. I just find new series figures incredibly difficult to review, as I don't know as much about them as the classics. And David Tennant in particular for me is a difficult Doctor to talk about. I mean, I know a lot of people love him. I do like him, but that's it. I don't find him as special as everybody else did. I just find him okay. He's good. He does the job. Whereas with other Doctors, I find there's a special thing about them. But that doesn't mean I think his Doctor's bad. I'm not too keen on the David Tennant Doctor now that I've rewatched them. So the two figures we've got are a Series 2 variant of David Tennant in the long coat and the brown pinstripe suit, and a Series 4 variant with a new head sculpt, the glasses, the blue pinstripe suit, and again the brown jacket, painted slightly differently. The articulation is the same as on the Christopher Eccleston figure, the head, the arms, and the legs, except there's no bicep articulation on this particular David Tennant figure. I think the one without the long coat does have the bicep articulation. So we'll just go straight into the detail, because the accessories are basically the same. The only difference is the handle of the sonic screwdriver is painted in a slightly lighter colour than the Eccleston. It's not as pale. It's more of a yellowy, sandy yellowy colour, sandy brown. So the detail, this face sculpt is very, very good. This is David Tennant as seen in Series 2, where he's got the flat combed over hair with the parting, and that's very, very nice. It's painted in brown with some like lighter blonde washes in it to highlight the hair. It's all very, very nice. His face, compared to the other one, it's not as thin as the other one, but he did get slightly thinner as the series progressed. So the sculpt is pretty accurate to Series 2, and it does look like David Tennant. It is recognisable as David Tennant. But the costume is probably the more interesting feature. It's the brown pinstripe suit that he wears for the majority, well actually the whole of Series 2, and then in Series 3 and some of Series 4 he wore this as well, where he switched it up with the blue suit in those series. You can see the shirt sculpted here. There's the collar sculpted on, and there's a bit of a gap there, because the tie's off to a side. The tie is meant to be the tie he wore in that series. I think it's meant to be the one with the like silvery circles, because there is the one with the lines that the Regeneration End of Time version has as well. The pinstripe suit is very, very nice. If I just pull open the coat, it's got lots of creases on it. It's got the pockets sculpted on, and you can see it's done in the brown colour with very pale blue stripes painted down the entire suit, the little jacket, and the trousers, and the shoes are the plimsolls, or the Converse basically, that he wore in Series 2 and in other series. These are they're kind of meant to be the cream ones he wore in the series. You can't see the cream very well on camera. There we are. So these are the cream variants he wore with the red line. They've got the shoelaces sculpted on again, and the little metal bits, the holes where the shoelaces go, and you've got the red line around there and the blue line there, and the front sculpted very, very well to look like Converse, and that's very, very good. The long coat is basically one piece of PVC sculpted in brown plastic, and that's very, very nice. It's got the split at the back there as it was on screen. You've got the pockets which keeps his satsumas and everything in. You've got the collar with the little lines highlighted on it. If I just bring that a bit closer, you might be able to see it. The lines are on there as well. You've got the buttons on both sides and the buttonholes as it appeared on the show. But other than that, it's just plain brown PVC with lots of creases in, and the arms, of course, are the long coat arms rather than the pinstripe suit arms, and they're just plain brown with the creases on the sides of the arms and everything. So that's very, very nice. But my only problem with these long coat for David Tennant figures is they've been released far too many times. David Tennant had way too many figures, and some of them were just basically the same with a new head. Speaking of a new head sculpt, here is the Series 4 variant of David Tennant as appeared in the 11th Doctor set. Basically, as you can see, there are quite a few changes to the sculpt of the figure. It's using the End of Time head from the End of Time David Tennant figure, with the glasses added on from the Series 2 variants as well. As you can see, his hairstyle did change. He started to gel it and spike it up, and there's a little bit of a flip there. So I actually prefer the comb down. This one's there's too much nonsense with this head. But other than that, the figure is basically, well, it actually is exactly the same figure, it's just repainted. There's nothing different. The brown is a slightly darker brown, it seems a bit stronger than the other one, and it actually highlights the features a little bit more. There's lines on this one that I couldn't see on the other figure, and a triangle just there where the split is, and there's another triangle there. So, I think the paint, it's benefited from the repaint, really. You can see the buttons again are there and everything, but I can't really talk about the long coat too much, as it's basically the same. The head sculpt it's okay. I mean, it's basically the non-battered End of Time head. It's a bit rubbery and it wobbles on the peg a fair bit. It still looks like David Tennant, now looking thinner as he did in the series, in the head. And it looks alright, it's very nice. You've got the same brown washes in the hair and sculpting. It should really be a separate piece, the fringe, I believe. It would have made the hair look a bit better. But the pinstripe suit is the main difference in this figure. It's repainted in the blue, as it was in Series 4, with the red pinstripes. They're very, very difficult to see on camera. Actually, you can't see them on camera, because they're a very dark red for this blue pinstripe suits. But they are there, I assure you. If you have the figure, you can go and have a look. Same shirt and tie sculpt, there's no changes there. Slight difference in the splodges on the tie, but that's it. And trousers, again, very, very nicely sculpted. The lines are a bit more obvious on the trousers. And he's wearing the red Converse with the white shoelaces, which are a lot more interesting, as the red and the white are more significant than the cream colour of the other one. You've got the red ring around here again, the blue line across here, again, as Converse shoes have, and the red is just all over there, and the shoelaces are sculpted in the white, just like the Converse shoes. I actually have a pair of these red Converse, because back when David Tennant was on, I actually quite liked his shoes, and there they are, my red Converse. So they're very, very good. No changes in the sonic screwdriver compared to other figures. Same sculpt, so pretty standard. And that's basically it for the 10th Doctor. Like I said, Series 2 variant, you can probably get that in a sale somewhere, or on a market stall, as you do tend to find new series figures because they're that common. And if you want this version, you can either get the End of Time one with the pinstripe suit without the glasses, and he'll be battered, or you can get this version with the blue pinstripe suit, or just get any David Tennant variant in his long coat from Series 4, and you'll basically have the same variant, maybe with it, but with this head sculpt. So, because a lot of David Tennant figures are the same, which is my only gripe with the new series. They tend to release slight tweaks to figures, but which are essentially the same figure, rather than release new variants like the classics try to. So that's the 10th Doctor, and now to move on to the man himself, my favourite new series Doctor, and that is the 11th Doctor, as played by Matt Smith.
Hello. I'm the Doctor.
The 11th Doctor, 2010 to 2013. The 11th Doctor saw off not one, but two alien threats almost as soon as he crashed to Earth. His new companion, Amy Pond, first met him when she was 7 years old, and while he was clad in the raggedy remnants of his 10th Doctor's suit. Now, I know what you're thinking, why have I gone with another tweed jacket variant of the 11th Doctor rather than a purple variant, because obviously that's the 50th anniversary costume he will be wearing. Well, I'll be blunt. I refuse to buy 3 3/4 inch figures. The detail is quite honestly crap compared to these, and I prefer that all my figures actually matched in scale, so I can on the shelf. So I do not buy the 3 3/4 inch figures, therefore I do not have a new Matt Smith. They may, if they ever do an 11 Doctor set 2 or a 12 Doctor set, they may do a 5-inch version of the purple frock coat Doctor, which I do hope they do. So for now we'll just go with this variant. This variant is from Series 6. It's the blue-shirted, blue bow tie variant I've seen in The Impossible Astronaut, Day of the Moon, etc. and it's a very, very nice figure. It is quite different to the Series 5 figure, and I'll show you why in a moment. Articulation same as on the Eccleston, except there's now thigh articulation. Well, there is if I can get it to move, because these legs are very, very stiff. I actually can't turn these legs, I apologise. They're turning the torso and they might snap. So there is leg and thigh articulation, but I can't do it, and there's bicep articulation, etc. But the new articulation for this Series 6 figure is, finally, we have ball jointed arms, which very few figures actually have. So this is very, very nice little extra articulation, because it means you can pop out the arms like that, and you can have him doing all sorts of poses like that, as opposed to just holding the screwdriver like that, or having him in more action oriented poses. So the detail, well, it's essentially the same Matt Smith body we've seen on other Matt Smith figures, minus the new except the new arms now. But we also now have a new head sculpt, which I actually think is more accurate to Matt Smith than the original release. It looks even more like him in the face sculpt. It just captures his likeness perfectly, as opposed to the Series 5 variant, where I think his face was a bit too long, but this one seems to have finally got it right. The hair sculpt is also completely different. It's one separate piece, unlike the other figure, which was, it had the hair sculpted on partially, and then the fringe, the parting here, was a separate piece that clicked into the head. This is all one piece that's just been clicked into the head and the fringe combed over here. And I actually think this hair sculpt looks better than the original, so this is quite a nice improvement. And this is painted in dark browns and lighter browns to highlight the hair, and it all looks very, very nice. The jacket is essentially the same, except that now the tweed has been slightly modified. The detailing looks a lot more obvious on this jacket. It's kind of like the Seeds of Doom Tom Baker figure. It looks more obvious with the tweed pattern on this figure. It looks a lot stronger. That may be because of the paint job, because the brown is a bit darker, but it's a lot stronger. It's a matte brown, and it looks a lot stronger and a lot thicker on this coat, and it's helped highlight the detail of the figure a lot more than on the first releases. There is also a pocket sculpted on this tweed jacket, which you may not be able to see. It is there, which I don't think is on other figures, which is very, very nice attention to detail. It's got the buttons there, they're just now brown, the pockets and everything, and the elbow pads in a very, very dark brown, as they appeared in the series. The trousers are the same, and the same leg sculpt and the same boots, except now we've got the boots in a matte black paint as opposed to the gloss black. They're sculpted very, very nicely, and the creases are very, very good. Again, we've got this odd little bit here with the crease of his trousers. It looks like his leg can bend upwards, but I don't mind that too much. And the shirt now has no lines. It's completely blue, kind of like the Patrick Troughton shirt. It's just completely blue. The buttons are completely blue, and it's a very, very nice shade of blue. I actually quite like this variant of the 11th Doctor. And the bow tie is again a piece that clicks into the neck, and that's sculpted in a dark blue. Let's bring that closer. Oddly, this side here of the bow tie is a bit taller. It's bigger than the other side of the bow tie. Now, I don't know whether that's a manufacturing error, or they've just tried to make the bow tie look more like it does in the story, with the having one bit slightly bigger than the other. I don't mind it too much, because when it's on because unless you're really looking for it, it's not very obvious on camera. So that's the detail for the 11th Doctor. Pretty basic and standard compared to other figures, and very similar to the other figures. So not much else to say. His sonic screwdriver, again, is the same sculpt. It's open. It's exactly the same. There's no differences. Still no closed variant, except they come with the 3 3/4 range. But like I said, I will not buy the 3 3/4 inch range of figures. Excuse me. And if the classics go down to 3 3/4 inch figures, I will despair. I will not be buying those either, as they will not match up. So that's all the Doctors, and that concludes part 1 of the Day of the Doctor review. Stay tuned for part 2, when we will be looking at the next 3 figures, and they are, of course, the Doctor's greatest enemy, the Daleks. So I shall see you in part 2 as we continue with the Day of the Doctor.